Discover the hidden truth, how Elon Musk's incredible rise to trillionaire changed lives forever. In the dusty heart of a small Californian town, hope flickered like an old neon sign desperately clinging to life. The streets, lined with shuttered storefronts and crumbling sidewalks, whispered stories of dreams lost to the relentless grind of economic despair. But amidst this desolation stood Jake, a 32-year-old mechanic, his grease-stained hands and patched clothes a testament to an unyielding spirit. Every morning, he rose with the sun, seeking not just to fix broken cars but to mend his struggling community. His brow creased with worry and ambition. He thought of the sustainable energy project that could be the lifeline his town desperately needed. News of Elon Musk's meteoric rise swirled through the town like wildfire. Some saw it as a spark of inspiration. Others felt the sting of envy, a sharp reminder of the vast chasm between their lives and his extravagant success. For Jake, the dreams of solar-powered electric buses danced in his mind like a distant mirage of vision that could resurrect this fading place. He gathered a few like-minded friends at the local diner, the air thick with hope and skepticism. As he shared his ideas, the clinking of coffee cups punctuated his words, but the city council's scoffs silenced the room. They feared change more than the stagnation that had held them captive for too long. The growing rift with his younger brother, Danny, twisted like a knife in Jake's heart. They had once been inseparable, but ambition had soured their relationship. "You think you can just leave us behind, Jake?" Danny's voice cut through the air one evening, heavy with hurt and resentment. Memories of shared laughter turned bitter, and Jake's heart ached. He longed to chase a dream, but the shadow of family loyalty loomed large. How could he abandon Danny to a past that felt suffocating? Then, just as a generous grant promising to launch his project slipped from his grasp, whispers of disapproval rippled through their community. Jake felt the weight of judgment bearing down on him. But when disaster struck, everything changed. A massive wildfire engulfed the town, its fiery claws igniting the desperation and fear that had long simmered below the surface. Neighbors, once divided by pride and resentment, began to band together to fight the blaze. It was a critical moment. The very people who had once dismissed Jake's dreams found themselves looking to him for guidance and inspiration. As the flames raged, Jake's emotions surged. Could this catastrophe be the spark to unify the town? Amid the chaos, he felt an ember of hope igniting within him. He raced through the smoke, memories of family and laughter pushing him forward. The decision weighed heavy on his shoulders. Should he focus on his dreams or put the needs of his community first? The question loomed large as he stood on the brink of change, adrenaline coursing through his veins. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the smoke began to clear, a new dawn broke over the town. Jake stood at a crossroads, his family at his side, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on him. This disaster had exposed the vulnerability of their bonds and the strength of their shared hopes. Could one man's vision truly redefine a community, or would the shadows of doubt consume them all? In the haze of uncertainty, Jake took a deep breath as patches of blue sky began to peek through the remnants of smoke. The town lay in ruins, but the spirit of its people surged with an unexpected energy. He looked around, catching the determined faces of his neighbors who had once turned their backs on him. Now, they stood shoulder to shoulder with him, united by an urgency to save what remained. "Jake!" A voice rang out. It was Mrs. Taylor, the elderly lady from across the street, her frail hands trembling but her eyes fierce. "You've got to help us get a plan together. We can't wait for someone else to save us." Jake nodded, the urgency in her tone igniting a fire within him. "You're right. We need to rally together, not just to fight this fire but to rebuild after it's gone." He gathered everyone around, every face he'd grown up with now a testament to resilience. They shared ideas, their voices rising in excitement, blending hope with pragmatism. He spoke of solar panels and electric buses, and what could be done to power their community sustainably. The murmurs of doubt slowly faded as people began to believe, but beneath the fervor, Jake still felt the ache of his brother's absence. Danny, who had always been there through thick and thin, had become a ghost in the crowd, haunted by their last confrontation. The divide felt insurmountable. Yet, the urgency to act against the inferno made every moment precious. That night, as the stars twinkled above, Jake wandered to what remained of his childhood home. The flames had licked at the edges of the structure, but the foundation still stood. He smiled bittersweetly, remembering nights spent dreaming about the future with Danny by his side. "Maybe we can fix this," he whispered to himself, punctuating the words with a newfound determination. He'd reach out to Danny, not as the ambitious brother trying to escape, but as the loyal brother who needed him. They had faced adversity together before, surely, they could navigate this together as well. The next day, in the light of dawn, Jake dialed Danny's number. His heart raced as it rang. Would he answer? Would he even want to talk? Just as he considered hanging up, Danny's voice broke through the static. "Jake." It was hesitant, laced with emotions they both had kept hidden for so long. "Yeah, it's me. I need your help." Silence lingered for a moment, thick in the air. Jake could feel the weight of their shared history pressing down on him. Then, finally, Danny spoke. "What do you need?" The relief flooded over Jake, but he felt the urgency of the moment. "The town is hurt, but we have a chance to rebuild. I want us to do this together." The fire had taught them both something crucial. Maybe it was time to let go of the past so they could forge a new path. They discussed the plan, exchanging ideas and sparking old dreams. The more they talked, the more Jake felt hope returning. This wasn't just about his vision anymore, it was about their shared struggle, their community rising from the ashes. Yet, as the resolve built among them, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that deeper challenges lurked just beneath the surface. What if the council still resisted? What if the community couldn't rally together? Would their fight against the flames truly lead to the revival they all hoped for? Just as determination solidified in his heart, another alarm rang out in the town, a stark reminder that the flames were still a threat. Hearts raced, anxiety gripped, but with it came the adrenaline of taking action once more. "Let us go!" Jake shouted to those around him, deciding in that moment to lead by example. They needed to embrace their strength now more than ever, and as they rushed toward the call for help, a new and unexpected challenge began to unfold in the distance. Could the unity found in disaster truly mean hope, or was this only the beginning of something far more complicated? Jake felt the heat of the blaze in his chest as he pushed forward with the others. The fire was still raging, its orange glow a stark contrast against the darkening sky. Water hoses splashed violently, a cacophony of desperate shouts ringing in his ears as the community sprang into action. He could see Mrs. Taylor at the front, barking orders with more resolve than anyone young enough to run. "There. More buckets. We need to create a line." Jake joined her, adrenaline pushing him past his doubts. They formed a human chain, hands moving instinctively as they passed water from one to the next. Each splash was a moment of hope, a defiant act against the consuming flames. The fire was relentless, but so were they. They worked in rhythm, trading glances of determination, of fatigue, but also of something that felt like belonging. As they fought, he could sense the rift within him beginning to mend. Being shoulder to shoulder with those he'd once considered distant reminded him how close they all really were. "Jake!" Danny's voice snapped him out of his thoughts. There he was, his brother, rushing to their side, sweat glistening on his brow. Relief washed over Jake, but it was quickly replaced by the urgency of the situation. "Help Mrs. Taylor get that line going," Jake urged, pointing towards their neighbor. Danny nodded, diving into the task as if nothing had ever changed between them. As the brothers worked side by side, it felt as if a bridge was beginning to form where there had once been a chasm. The old warmth of their companionship flickered like a small flame hidden beneath layers of tension. They didn't speak much, each action said enough. Suddenly, the wind shifted, and a thick cloud of smoke enveloped them. Everyone coughed and stumbled, fighting to catch their breath amidst the chaotic scene. "Jake!" Danny shouted, his voice strained and urgent. "We need to pull back." They paused, the flames dancing dangerously close. It was a split-second choice: stay and risk everything, or retreat and regroup. The heat pressed against Jake, and in that moment, he saw the fear in Danny's eyes. "Let us go." Jake echoed, the order instinctively flowing from him. They backed away as a wave of embers burst into the air. Farther away, Jake grabbed Danny's arm, pulling him aside. "Listen, we have to think bigger than just fighting this fire. We need to help everyone understand what we're trying to do, rebuilding the community, not just the town." Danny nodded but looked troubled. "And what if they don't want it? What if some people don't believe in it?" A heavy silence settled between them, broken only by the distant sound of sirens. The fear in Danny's eyes was tangible. Jake felt his own heart hammering. "We can't give up, not now. We have to win them over with action, with results." Just then, Mrs. Taylor rushed over, her fervor still ablaze. "We need to make a stand and show them what this means. If we don't act now, we could lose everything we stand for." The weight of her words settled like heavy stones in Jake's gut. This was more than just a fire. It was about their lives, their identities, their futures. Could they truly show everyone the light amidst the flames? Could they transform this disaster into a renaissance? Before he could voice his thought, a sudden crack of lightning illuminated the sky, its ominous flash followed by a rumble of thunder. A storm was brewing, complicating everything. "There's no telling how bad this could get," Jake murmured, eyes darting to the horizon. "No," Danny's voice was steady now, a spark ignited in him. "But we're not alone in this. We fight together." A sense of unity washed over them, fortified by the impending storm. But as they prepared to rally their neighbors once again, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that nature's fury was only one of the battles they would need to face. Would they withstand the storm? And could Danny really trust him again, or was there still too much left unspoken? The air crackled with tension as black clouds gathered above, darkening the landscape with impending doom. Jake could feel the static building, as if the world was holding its breath. His mind raced, filled with the urgency of the moment. "Get the rest of the people back." Mrs. Taylor yelled over the chaos, directing the small crowd that had gathered. Jake felt a swell of pride at how she commanded respect, even in the face of such terror. He turned towards Danny, their eyes locking firmly. "Let us gather everyone at the park," Jake proposed, his voice sharp. "It's safe there, we need to make a plan." Danny nodded quickly, moving into action while Jake scanned the surrounding faces, eager to bolster their ranks. He couldn't ignore the flicker of doubt in some eyes, the worry of whether this was all futile, a fire that couldn't be stopped. As the group moved toward the park, the fiery glow behind them cast an eerie light on the anxious faces around. Mothers clutched their children, fathers whispered reassurances that felt inadequate against the roar of destruction. Jake felt himself drawing strength from their fear. "Hey! Everyone!" he shouted, standing atop a fallen log to gain some height. The crowd grew still, eyes turning his way. "We've faced challenges before. This fire may seem unstoppable, but we can pull together. We can save our homes and our community." He took a deep breath. "If we work as one, we can fight back, not just against the flames, but against whatever comes next." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, but Jake sensed the hesitation lingering beneath the surface. As if commanded by the very thought, the storm unleashed its fury with sudden, torrential rain. It soaked them in an instant, but rather than dismay, Jake saw the fire in their spirits rise anew. "This is a blessing," he shouted above the downpour. "Let us use the rain to our advantage. We need to redirect the water from the park to the flames. We can create barriers. Fight with nature. Danny leaped to action, pulling people in to grab shovels and buckets from the nearby sports supplies shed. It surprised Jake how quickly everyone transformed, sturdy heads held high, the fear melting away as purpose took root. The storm itself seemed to become their ally, drenching the earth, snuffing out flames where it could. But then, a crash echoed through the forest. A tree, weakened by the flames and bolstered by the rain, snapped and fell just beyond the park, its trunk sprawling menacingly across the path people had taken just moments ago. Gasps of shock pierced the air. "Stay calm. No one panic." Jake shouted, the authority in his voice a lifeline. "We need to keep moving, get to the other side." As he turned to help guide others, he caught sight of Mrs. Taylor, her face a mixture of fear and fierce determination. "We can't lose anyone. We can't." She cried to no one in particular. Jake moved toward her, desperation surging within him. "We're not losing anyone. We're not giving up. We're stronger than this." But as he locked eyes with her, he saw something deeper, doubt mingled with hope. In that moment, he realized this was more than just about fighting the fire or the storm. This was about trust, about forging connections that had seemed lost. Could they truly rely on one another? Would they find the courage to unite under such overwhelming odds? A crack of thunder resounded overhead, a reminder that if they didn't act swiftly, nature would keep testing their resolve. "Let us move," Jake shouted, feeling the weight of their fears resting on his shoulders. Just then, another sound sliced through the storm. A distant siren, much closer now. Hope. Or more chaos yet to come. As the shadows of the trees loomed, Jake could only wonder if they were about to face the true challenge that would define them all. The siren got louder, slicing through the chaos surrounding them. Jake's heart raced. It felt both like a lifeline and a warning bell. He scanned the horizon, searching for any sign of help or yet another layer of disaster. The rain continued to pelt down, drenching them, but at least it kept the flames at bay, for now. "Keep moving. We need to make sure everyone is safe." He called out again, urging people to hustle beyond the fallen tree. Danny was directing others toward a narrow path that twisted around the debris. The tension was tangible, every moment stretching like a taut wire ready to snap. Mrs. Taylor grabbed Jake's arm, her grip tight. What if that siren means more danger? What if help is not what we need right now? Jake felt the uncertainty in her voice, a flicker of fear igniting in the back of his mind. "We have to hope for the best. If it's help." But before he could finish, bright lights emerged from the layers of rain, illuminating the chaos around them. A firetruck barreled into view, splashing through puddles, its loud horn cutting through the night like a beacon. Relief washed over the crowd, but Jake couldn't shake the feeling of dread. Did they have enough time to save everyone? "Over here!" Jake shouted, waving his arms as firefighters jumped from the truck. They looked determined, uniforms clinging to them, eyes wide with purpose as they assessed the situation. Their presence should have comforted the crowd, but Jake worried that the battle wasn't over yet. As the new arrivals mobilized, Jake took a deep breath. He felt a surge of energy, but something inside him still nagged at the edge of his mind. He turned back to the crowd, whose faces mixed fear with newfound hope. "Listen. The firefighters are here, and they're going to help us. But we need to keep working together." The group rallied, following Jake's lead as they worked to clear paths, moving debris and forming makeshift barriers wherever they could. It felt like a dance, a rhythm built on fear but fueled by a collective determination. With each shove of earth and each filled bucket, the unity in the crowd blossomed, but just as they began to find their footing, the ground shook beneath them, not from the storm, but from something deeper, a rumble that felt like an echo of the chaos inside each of them. A low growl of thunder rolled above, but it wasn't just from the storm. What was that? Someone cried, eyes wide with alarm. Jake froze for a heartbeat, the sound ringing in his ears. "I don't know." "Stay alert," he called out, looking for signs of what lay ahead. The air grew still for a moment, the wind pausing as if listening. Then, out from the trees, he noticed movement, a shape, dark and looming, pushing through the shadows. Jake's stomach dropped as reality set in. This wasn't just a fire. Something else was coming, something more terrifying than the flames they had been fighting. The tension snapped as a figure emerged, silhouetted against the flickering lights of the fire truck. Jake's heart raced with a mix of fear and curiosity. Who, or what, was stepping forward through the smoke? The crowd surged back, collective breaths held, as the true challenge revealed itself. Jake's mind swirled with uncertainty and determination. Was this the moment that would define them all, or would it crumble them? His thoughts raced as he braced for whatever lay ahead. It was time to discover not just how they would fight the fire but to confront the truth of their situation and their own fears. What had they really awakened? The figure stepped into the light, revealing itself in stark contrast to the chaos surrounding them. A man, tall and drenched, his jacket torn and covered in mud. Jake squinted through the rain, trying to make sense of it all. The man looked just as bewildered, his eyes scanning the crowd, searching for something or someone. "Hey! Over here!" he yelled, his voice ragged but urgent. The crowd hesitated, exchanging glances filled with apprehension. Who was this stranger amidst their turmoil? Jake felt a strange pull of empathy toward him. After all, they were all victims of this disaster. "Are you all right?" Jake called, moving cautiously forward, his heart pounding. The man nodded, though weariness weighed heavy on his shoulders. "I was stuck in the area when the fire started. Attempting to find my way out, I heard the sirens and then these thundering sounds. I thought it was all lost." His voice wavered as if the words were a weight he struggled to carry. "What do you mean?" Jake edged closer, the weight of the man's story gripping him more than the rain ever could. "You don't understand," the man said, glancing behind him into the shadows. "There is something worse than the fire. Something down there." He gestured toward the dark edges of the forest, his hand trembling. "I've seen it before, and it's alive." "What do you mean alive?" Danny stepped up beside Jake and cut in, a frown creasing his forehead. "Whatever that noise is, it isn't natural. It's like the ground is hungry." He paused, scanning the horizon again, anxiety etched across his features. "We can't stay here. It's not just about the fire anymore." The tension surged in the air, and the crowd started to murmur. Jake felt the thrumming of adrenaline in his veins. Fear was palpable, and he could tell it was spreading through everyone. It clawed at their resolve. What were they truly facing? "Okay, everyone." Jake raised his voice, desperation creeping into his words. "We need to listen. We can't let fear take control." He tried to sound confident, but doubt lingered at the back of his mind. Mrs. Taylor, still clutching his arm, looked to him with wide eyes. "Jake, what if he's right? What if staying here puts us in even more danger?" "Then we need to make a plan," he replied, his voice steadier than his heart felt. "Maybe we can set a few people to find out what is going on while the rest keep clearing paths." The stranger shifted nervously, biting his lip. "If you do that, you have to go in groups. Don't move alone. It knows fear, it feeds off it." The crowd shuffled, their unity wavering under the weight of dread. Jake felt as if the ground was slipping beneath them, not from the storm but from the collective uncertainty. "Listen," he said urgently. "We can't let this unknown force tear us apart. We've fought the fire together, we can do this too. We just have to trust each other." His heart raced, knowing he was laying it all on the line. In the somber silence, he heard a soft "yeah" from a woman in the crowd. More voices joined hers, soft like whispers at first but then growing stronger, defiant against the storm. "Let us do this together." Danny shouted, adrenaline fueling his voice, but just as resolve began to settle, the ground trembled again, shaking harder than before. A rumble echoed through the trees, and the dark shadows shifted, enclosing them. A sense of urgency rose like the tide. As fear swept through Jake, he clenched his fists. They had to face whatever threat loomed in the shadows. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of everyone's eyes on him. What was hiding in the dark, and would they have the strength to confront it? The tremors intensified, a low growl reverberating through the ground, and Jake's heart raced as he instinctively stepped back. The crowd followed suit, fear drawing them closer together but also pushing them apart. Whispers rose, panic starting to carve into the confidence they had just gained. "Stay calm," Jake shouted, though his own voice trembled under the mounting tension. He could see others beginning to falter, glancing nervously into the dark woods. The stranger beside him, still breathing heavily, gazed intently into the shadows as if he expected something to emerge at any moment. Jake locked eyes with him, a surge of determination igniting within him. "What is your name?" he asked, hoping to solidify the connection amidst the chaos. "Ethan," the man replied, his voice a hoarse whisper. "And I can help. I've seen it before, I know we can find a way out." Jake nodded, desperation giving him clarity. "All right, Ethan. We need to group everyone into smaller teams. You lead one." He turned to Danny, who stood beside him, dread etched on his face. "Can you take another?" "Sure, I'm with you." Danny took a quick look around, his eyes darkening at the sight of the terrified faces. "What do we do when we find whatever is causing this?" "We're not hunting it," Jake replied sharply. "We just want to scout. Look for survivors and keep everyone together." He swallowed hard, feeling the weight of their safety pressing down on him. "Okay, listen up." Jake raised his voice again, trying to project confidence. "We're splitting into groups now. Ethan and Danny will lead. No one goes alone. Stay close. If anything feels wrong, call for help. We'll only be gone a short while." He searched their faces for reassurance, hoping to catch a flicker of hope. After a brief pause, Mrs. Taylor's voice broke through. "We could all stay together, no?" Jake interrupted fiercely, but his tone softened as he saw the fear in her eyes. "We need to see what's out there. If it's safe, we come back for the rest. We'll be right back, I promise." Reluctantly, heads nodded, and within moments, they organized. A spark of courage lit the air as Danny took his group towards the far end of the forest while Jake stood by Ethan, ready to brave the twisted trees. Together, they plunged into the underbrush, adrenaline coursing through Jake like wildfire. Rain drummed against the leafy canopies, drowning out the sounds of the chaos they left behind. The further they walked, the more oppressive the air felt, thick with the scent of damp earth and smoke. Ethan moved cautiously, glancing around like a hawk. "This is where I heard the noises," he murmured, his brow furrowing. "It's not just the fire. There is something deeper." Jake's breath caught. "What do you mean?" "Voices. Whispers in the dark." Ethan looked back at Jake with eyes wide and searching. "It's as if the forest itself is alive, like it remembers." Each step felt like a journey into an abyss of fear. Was it possible there were not just flames threatening their lives but something more sinister lurking here, drawing its power from their fear? Jake's heart pounded louder than any siren. Suddenly, a sharp cry rang out through the trees, slicing the air like glass. It froze them in place, breathless. Jake felt the cold grip of panic overtake him. "Did you hear that?" he whispered, glancing at Ethan, who appeared pale as a sheet. "Yes. We need to go back now." But before they could turn around, another tremor rolled through the ground, shaking the very roots beneath their feet. What if this was only the beginning of whatever shadow lay ahead? The tremor subsided for a moment, leaving a lingering silence that felt heavier than before. Jake's breath was shallow, his chest tightening as he scanned his surroundings, desperate for anything that could tell him they were safe. It was then that he caught sight of movement, a flicker of something dark just beyond the trees. "Stay close," Jake ordered, fear creeping under his skin. Ethan nodded, his grip tightening on a nearby branch, a makeshift weapon in a world gone mad. The air was thick with tension, each raindrop feeling like a warning bell tolling in the distance. "Jake, do you think we should?" Suddenly, the shadows shifted, and out of them stumbled a figure. A girl, drenched and trembling, her eyes wide with fear. "Help!" she cried, voice choked with panic. "They're coming." Jake's heart raced. Who? Who's coming? "I don't know." She looked back nervously, as if the trees might swallow her whole. "There's something out there, it's not just the fire. It's something worse." Jake exchanged a glance with Ethan. "We need to take her back. Come on." But before they could move, the ground shook again, this time accompanied by a rumble that sounded almost like a growl. It felt like the forest itself was warning them, urging them to retreat. "Follow me," Jake shouted, yanking the girl's hand. "We can't leave her behind." Ethan nodded, and they started back the way they came. The trees loomed above them like giants, their branches scratching at the sky. "Please," the girl panted, struggling to keep up. "I saw them. They're not human." "What do you mean?" Jake asked, gripping her shoulder, forcing her to look him in the eye. "Monsters," she gasped. "They came out of the shadows. I saw them." The words slid like ice into Jake's stomach. Monsters? His mind raced through images of stories he had heard, tales of dark creatures that preyed on fear. "Stay quiet," Ethan urged, glancing back over his shoulder. They moved faster now, dodging around roots and fallen branches. The growing noise surrounded them, a cacophony that intensified with every step. It was like the woods were alive, an echo of a heartbeat they weren't meant to hear. "Jake!" Ethan shouted, voice barely reaching above the mounting chaos. "We can't keep running. We need to find others." He nodded but felt stuck between two worlds, the safety of the group behind them and the unknown horrors ahead. His instincts kicked in. "We need to get to Danny. He can help us make sense of this." But as they pressed on, the sounds morphed. Now, they heard voices overlapping, soft whispers that seemed to seep from the trees around them. It was as if the forest itself was telling them to turn back. "What is happening?" The girl whimpered, her hands trembling harder. "Just a little further," Jake urged, though he felt the darkness swell around them. They were running out of time. Suddenly, a shadow lunged from behind a tree, a dark figure exploding into the clearing. Jake's heart dropped as he saw it was unlike anything he'd imagined, long and spindly with glowing eyes that pierced through the murky air. "Run!" he yelled. They sprinted, guided by a frantic instinct. Each heartbeat screamed survival as the creature followed closely, the whispers rising to a haunting crescendo. What if this was only the beginning, not just of their flight, but of the nightmare waiting in the depths of the forest? As they raced for their lives, a chilling thought crossed Jake's mind: what if the forest itself was the true enemy? They dashed deeper into the trees, breathless and terrified. The ground felt alive beneath their feet, pulsing with an energy that echoed their frantic heartbeats. Jake led the way, dragging the girl along, while Ethan kept glancing back, his eyes wide with shock and fear. "What do you mean they're not human?" Ethan shouted, trying to maintain some grip on reality. "I don't know." The girl cried. "They looked wrong, like shadows made flesh." Jake could feel the panic tightening in his chest. Those words echoed with a familiar dread, memories of bedtime stories turned nightmares. But he couldn't afford to linger on those thoughts. They had to focus. "Just keep running," he urged. "We need to get to the clearing. Danny will know what to do." The branches whipped at their skin as they weaved through the dense underbrush. Behind them, the creature's guttural growl rumbled like distant thunder, shaking the air around them. The forest was alive, but not in any comforting way. It felt as though something dark and ancient was awakening, hungry for their fear. Suddenly, Jake stumbled over a root, nearly tumbling face-first into the damp ground. He steadied himself and turned, just in time to see the shadow take form again, creeping closer, a twisted shape with impossibly long limbs and glowing eyes that bore down on them. "Jake, move!" Ethan yelled, yanking him by the arm. They pushed onward, adrenaline coursing through their veins, but the whispers intensified, a cacophony of voices swirling around them. It felt as if the trees were confiding secrets better left unspoken. "Please!" The girl gasped, her breath hitching. "I can't keep up." Jake felt a surge of desperation. "Hold on to my shoulder," he said, glancing back toward the bright, piercing eyes closing in before returning his focus ahead. "Just trust me." Their feet pounded against the forest floor, a symphony of survival. In this madness, one thought stood out, Danny. Jake prayed he'd be in the clearing, that they weren't too late. Just then, they broke into a small opening where the moonlight filtered through the thick canopy above, illuminating the chaos behind them. Jake hesitated for a split second, scanning for any sign of Danny, but all he could make out were shadows shifting at the perimeter of their fragile sanctuary. "There's nowhere to go," Ethan shouted, fear lacing his voice. "Over there." Jake pointed to a patch of thicker brush, hoping to find a place to hide. They darted toward it, but just as they reached the cover, the ground beneath them shook again. The creature emerged at the edge of the clearing, its eyes aglow with an unnatural light. Jake's heart raced, terror clawing at his throat. He had never felt so vulnerable. In that moment, uncertainty replaced his determination. "What do we do?" Ethan panicked, his voice trembling like the leaves overhead. Jake's mind raced. They had to confront it. But how? "We need to fight or run, Jake." The girl whimpered, tears streaming down her face. "I don't want to die." The sound of her fear cut through him like a knife. "We won't die. We'll find a way." As the creature stepped closer, the ground seemed to ripple with its presence, the whispers crescendoing into a roar. Jake faced it, fists clenched, willing himself not to back down. But just as he steeled himself for what was to come, the trees around them began to move. Roots shifted, the air crackled with energy, and something sparked inside him, a realization. "Wait!" Jake shouted, heart pounding with newfound hope. "Maybe the forest is trying to help." Just then, the shadows in the trees shifted again as the whispers morphed into a song, a haunting, beautiful melody that seemed to call out to the creature. It paused, its hunger momentarily stilled. "What is happening?" Ethan breathed, all mingling with fear as they watched the scene unfold. That it was just the beginning of something far bigger, but what would it mean for all of them? In that instant, Jake felt a sense of purpose. The forest, the creature, the girl, everything was connected in a way he couldn't yet understand. But could they harness that connection before it was too late? Before the forest's true nature was revealed? Shadows shifted and the haunting melody swirled around them, saturating the air with a mix of hope and fear. The creature hesitated, its glowing eyes flickering as if caught in some deep, ancient battle. The whispers grew louder, urging Jake and the others to find their ground. Was the forest revealing its secrets? "Trust it," Jake said, astonishment sparking in his chest. "This is our chance to connect, to not just fight the fire but understand what we're truly up against." The girl beside him clutched Jake's arm, her eyes wide with fear. "But how can we trust it? What if it eats us alive?" Tension hung thick in the air, and yet something deep inside Jake urged him forward. "We need to show it that we're not here to harm. We're trying to save our town, our home." He stepped forward, channeling every ounce of courage he had. The forest responded, the whispers weaving into a tapestry of sound that surrounded him as if it were encouraging him to act. "Listen. We're not your enemies," he shouted, his voice rising above the chaos. "We've been through the fire. We're here to fight together. Not as against you, but as part of something greater." Ethan and the girl watched in shock as the creature blinked slowly, its demeanor shifting from predatory to curious. The trees seemed to lean in, leaves rustling gently, and the once menacing growl faded to a low rumble, sounding less like a roar and more like a conversation. "We're trapped between worlds," Jake shouted, projecting his voice with conviction. "The fire, this thing behind us, it's all a part of the change we need. If we work together, we can overcome anything." As he spoke those words, a small beam of moonlight broke through the canopy, casting an ethereal glow on the scene before him. The creature stood motionless, its eyes flickering with something akin to understanding. "It wasn't just a beast, this was a guardian of the forest." Ethan edged closer. "Jake, maybe you're right. If we communicate." But just as hope began to spark in their hearts, a shudder rolled through the ground again. The fire crackled in the distance, and the creature swayed, torn between two forces: release and destruction. "We need to show solidarity," Jake urged, voice steady. "Everyone back at the clearing. If we can unite everyone's strength, we might help calm it. We can't let fear win." "Jake, what if it doesn't work?" the girl asked, doubt creeping back into her voice. "Then we fight," he replied, determination igniting. With renewed resolve, Jake pressed onward. He turned to Ethan. "Gather whoever you can, Danny too. Tell them to join us, it's our last shot." Ethan nodded, determination etched in his features. Quickly, he sprinted away into the shadows, leaving Jake and the girl locked in a silent understanding. Moments felt like hours as they waited, anxiety brewing in Jake's chest. What if it was all for nothing? What if they didn't survive the night? But with the echoes of the forest still swirling gently around them, Jake held on to the hope that they could unify, not just to survive but to thrive. Finally, the anxious crackles of voices rushed into the clearing. Danny, along with Mrs. Taylor and a handful of gathered townsfolk, edged in, concern mapping their faces. "Jake! What is happening?" Danny panted, wide-eyed. "We can calm it, bring the town together," Jake shouted. "Please. Everyone, gather. Let us show we're united, not just against fire and monster, but together as one community." As if sensing the urgency, the forest responded with a gentle breeze. Leaves rustled, and the whispers grew stronger, now inviting rather than daunting. Danny, holding a shovel, glanced at his brother. "We've come this far. If we're fighting together, let us show it." One by one, people formed a circle around the creature, hearts pounding in rhythm with the forest's breaths. Fear faded, replaced by a stirring sense of purpose. They joined their voices, calling out in unison, crafting an anthem of resilience, hope, and unity. Together. Together. Their voices merged, swelling into a chorus that reached deep into the forest, urging the energies of nature to balance as they screamed against despair. As once doubt trembled within them, defiance surged, the earth vibrated beneath their feet. The shadows began to break apart, light spilling through the darkness. The creature roared, but it wasn't in rage. Instead, it was a call of understanding, harmonizing with their cries. In that moment, Jake felt changed. They became one with the forest, the flames, and each other. They stood on the brink of a new dawn, uncertainty transforming into clarity. Change had come, and it was potent. With an ear-splitting roar, the creature faded into a swirl of shadows, merging with the forest as the last vestiges of fear shattered. The ground sputtered, and the whispers all around sank into gentle rustles. The voice of the forest now at peace, the fire, wild and fierce, began to retreat as rains fell from the sky, washing the pain away. There in that clearing, amid the raw beauty of destruction and rebirth, hope blossomed brighter than Jake had ever dreamed. Tears of joy rolled down Jake's cheeks as he turned to face his brother. "We can rebuild, Danny. Together." "Together," Danny echoed, understanding blooming between them. As they clasped hands, and the townsfolk gathered around, Jake's heart was full, bursting with pride for what they'd accomplished. The vision of solar-powered buses, a brighter future for all, none of it was just a dream anymore. They were alive, they were together, and they were ready to transform their town. Nothing could stop them now. In the coming months, as they rebuilt their homes and the community rose anew, they would remember the night the forest spoke. It wasn't just a battle against flames, it was a fight for unity, a fight that changed lives, molded friendships, and forged an unbreakable bond. And in that small Californian town, hope flickered steadily like a beacon, now not an old neon sign, but a bright, thriving fire that would never burn out. Now, this is your moment. You need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories we're bringing your way. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it really makes a difference. Comment below your feelings about this incredible transformation, and don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this journey. Your support means everything to us. Let us keep this fire burning bright.